Hey guys, this is Phil and welcome to another video on Phil's Computer Lab. Today we are checking out the Intel Celeron 433 4-slot 1 motherboards. I saw this processor on eBay and it was kindly given to me free of charge by Computer Parts World. There's a link down below in the description to their online eBay store, so if you're interested, check it out. Maybe there's something that you like. Now the Celeron 433 is quite an interesting processor. Usually Celeron CPUs are entry-level and meant for budget PCs, offering very basic performance at a very low price, and generally you want to avoid any Celeron CPU because of the limited performance or features. So what makes this Celeron interesting are two things. Firstly, it is the fastest Celeron processor available for slot 1 motherboards. It is also the best slot 1 processor with the 66 MHz frontside bus. So if you have an older slot 1 motherboard that only supports 66 MHz FSB processors, then this CPU might be ideal for you. In this video, we will go over the specifications of this processor and then we will run it through some benchmarks and compare it against a range of Pentium 2 and Pentium 3 CPUs. Especially interesting is the performance against the Pentium 2 333 because this is the top slot 1 Pentium 2 which is compatible with the 66 MHz frontside bus. We will also find out how it compares against the top Pentium 2 which is the 450 MHz version. Are you missing out if you don't have a 100 MHz FSB motherboard, or is the Celeron 433 a decent alternative? In the background we have this processor running Drakan, and we will check out the performance in this game in more detail later in the video. So let's have a closer look at the specifications. The frontside bus runs at 66 MHz, it's got a 6.5x multiplier which gives it a clock speed of 433 MHz. Interesting is the cache. It only has 128 kilobytes of cache, which is a lot less than the 512 that the Pentium 2 has. However, it is on the CPU die and it runs at the full speed, so it runs at 433 MHz, whereas on the Pentium 2 it runs at half the speed. Usually if you have a 450 MHz Pentium 2 for example, it only runs at 225 MHz. The CPU launched in March of 1999 for a price, according to CPU World, of $177 US. The Celeron 433 has the Mendocino core, produced at the 250 nanometer process, 2 volts core voltage, and a TDP of only 24.1 watts. We're going to have a look at some benchmarks next. The test system consists of an 8-bit BH6 slot 1 motherboard, 256 MB of RAM. We've got a NVIDIA Quadro 2 Pro graphics card, a Turtle Beach Santa Cruz sound card, 16 GB SD card, and we're running Windows 98 SE. In DOS, looking at 3DBench 1.0C, the performance of the Celeron 433 is really good. We're getting 666 FPS. In Chris's 3DBench, we are a little bit behind the Pentium 2 450, but still a very good performance. In the PC Player benchmark, the Celeron falls behind a little bit, but it is still able to beat the Pentium 2 350. In Doom, it's not quite able to catch the Pentium 2s running on the faster 100 MHz frontside bus. However, it is still in front of the Pentium 2 333, which is the quickest slot 1 Pentium 2 that has the 66 MHz frontside bus. In Quake, the Celeron does really well, 96 FPS, which is faster than the Pentium 2 350. As we increase resolution, the Celeron does better compared to 320 by 200. In the PC Player benchmark, it is now just behind the Pentium 3 450. And the same goes for Quake at 640 by 480. We're getting 38 FPS, which is just behind the top Pentium 2. In Windows, we're starting off with 3D Mark 2000 and we're getting 2,844 points, which is basically tied with the Pentium 2 350. The processor also does very well. In incoming, we're getting 80 FPS. In Expandable, we're getting 37 FPS, which is basically the same result as the Pentium 2 350. In Jailquake, 151 FPS, just in front of the Pentium 2 350. Same goes for Quake 2, 2 FPS more compared to the Pentium 2 350. Running Quake 2 in software mode, the processor does very well, 22.2 FPS. In Quake 3, we're getting 43 FPS, which is almost able to catch the Pentium 2 450. And the last benchmark, MDK2, we're getting 55 FPS, which is just in front of the Pentium 2 350. Let's have a quick look at power draw. This is measured at the power supply. So under idle, we're getting 57 watts. So it's right in between the Pentium 2 333 and 350 and the Pentium 2 and Pentium 3 450. Under load, we're getting 63 watts when playing Quake 2 at 1024 by 768 and playing Expendable with VSync enabled, we're getting a power draw of 63 watts. So let's go over all these results. I also want to point out that I had a go at overclocking. So raising the frontside bus to 100 MHz gives you a final clock speed of 650 MHz. Unfortunately, that was just simply too high. Even raising the voltage, the processor, it just wouldn't post. So it was a no-go. So we've seen the results. The Celeron 43 is indeed the quickest slot 1 CPU if you're stuck on a 66 MHz frontside bus motherboard. So in that case, you might want to not get a Pentium 2 and have a look at this CPU instead. In every benchmark, the Celeron 433 was able to beat the Pentium 2 333, and in most of the benchmarks, it was also able to stay ahead of the Pentium 2 350. Against the Pentium 2 and the Pentium 3 running at 450 MHz, I would say that the Celeron 433 is still quite competitive. Yes, the Pentium 2 and the Pentium 3, they are faster, there's no denying that, but the gap is not very big. In terms of power draw, yes, the Celeron draws a little bit less power. However, the Pentium 2 and the Pentium 3 chips are also a little bit faster. So in terms of performance per watt, there's not much difference between these CPUs. And a comment about Draken, which was running in the background with the Fraps counter. You could see the FPS can fluctuate quite a lot depending on what's going on in the game. This game is quite CPU demanding, quite surprising actually. And even with these faster 400 MHz CPUs, it is still asking for a lot more CPU power. So it will take a while until we get to CPUs where this game will run locked at 60 FPS all of the time. However, it was still quite playable. In terms of playing the game, I find it very hard. Even on easy, I'll keep dying. But I found some cheats online, so I think that's the way for me to play this game. Yeah, I'm not too much into the combat stuff, but the story is interesting, and I just want to see what happens with those dragons. So there you have it, guys. Some Celeron CPUs are worth considering, and this one is indeed special. If you're stuck on a 66 MHz frontside bus slot 1 motherboard, then this is the fastest CPU that money can buy. And that's it. We are at the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. Like or dislike the video depending how you feel. Leave me a comment down below, and I'll see you soon with another video.